iHeart, get ready. Fantasy football is here. Welcome to the Scout Fantasy Show. ScoutFantasy.com is home to the Fantasy Football World Championships and the best players in the world. Real money winners giving their secrets to help you win. Now exclusively on iHeart. This is the Scout Fantasy Show with your host, the one, the only, Dr. Roto.
Hey there, it's Dr. Roto. Get out the insurance cards, get out the copay. The office is open, my friends. All right, yesterday we talked AFC. And today we're going to talk the NFC. That's right, the NFC playoffs. Once again, one game I feel very comfortable predicting, and one game I have no idea whatsoever. I'm being really honest about that. So let me get to the one game I feel most confident about. And that's the Seattle Seahawks against the Detroit Lions. Now look, I want to say that the Lions were in fact a mild success story this year. I do. I think they were a mild success story. People doubted Matthew Stafford, and I'll tell you this. I did a program down here for ESPN in Southwest Florida where we went to Twin Peaks to do what was called a fantasy football camp. And I said to the 20 or 30 people that were there, my surprise quarterback of the year was Matthew Stafford. They looked at me like I was crazy. I said, I'm not crazy. I'm telling you, he's going to have a good year. And sure enough, he threw for 4,300 yards and 24 touchdowns. Now, the 24 touchdowns could have been a bit more, but that is a pretty good year for a guy that you were getting in round 16 or 17 because people were done with him, right? People were mentally done with this guy. This guy was garbage, right? Nobody wanted him and Jim Bob Cooter, right? But Matthew Stafford persevered. And what's so interesting about this Lions offense is that it's a time of possession, control the football offense. And they're really not that interesting to watch. They're really a boring team. And if you notice about the Lions, and I joked about this on the radio, but it's true, you know how games go, they start at 1 o'clock and they go to like 18? Lion games are done at like 3:48 because of the time of possession. Now, they're going to need that time of possession against the Seahawks, right? They lost the game against Green Bay. Now they got to go on the road to Seattle, 12th man, not easy. Not easy. Okay? They're doing it with a running back who has actually been very surprising the last couple of weeks in Zach Zenner. Zach Zenner the last 2 weeks has looked like a real NFL running back. 12 carries, 67 yards, 2 touchdowns against Dallas. 20 carries, 69 yards, 1 touchdown against Green Bay. He looks legit. But I don't know how legit he's going to be against the Seahawks. Right? I'm not sure about that. Not sure about that. Michael Bennett is back. It's better. Okay? But for Detroit, and the other interesting thing about Detroit this year is who would have thought they would have been this successful without Megatron? Right? Without their Hall of Fame player. So, and what has Marvin Jones done the last few weeks? I mean, this guy has been amazingly unpredictable. The first 3 weeks of the year, I'll argue even 4 weeks, sensational, right? 4 for 85, 8 for 118, 6 for 205 and 2, 5 for 74, and then he drops off a cliff. A cliff. Now, if you look at the inverse to this is Golden Tate, who did absolutely nothing the first 5 weeks, but then who came alive because Jim Bob Cooter realized he had to integrate Golden Tate in the offense. Right? 7 for 41, 2 for 13, 4 for 40, 1 for 1, 3 for 39. The first 5 weeks, if you had Golden Tate, you were pulling your hair out. And then all of a sudden, he went off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 games, maybe 6. You could argue 6 games he went off and was very good. Okay? So they're going to need Golden Tate playing against his own team in a narrative game right there. So there's a narrative play for you. They're going to need this guy to play well. I think Anquan Bolden will play reasonably well. Anquan Bolden is just a slow, steady kind of guy. But if you look at his production over the last few weeks, 6 catches, 7, 4, 3, 3, 5, 4, he makes himself available for Matthew Stafford. Right? He makes himself available. I think the key player, though, is Eric Ebron. Eric Ebron has had some very good weeks. And then he's done nothing. He's been injured, that's true. But I mean, the last couple of weeks he came alive again with 18 targets. 18 targets. That is a huge number. So, but I always say this. Bolden and Ebron both won't go off. One will, but not both. That's how it works in this offense. So we're going to have to see what happens here. But I think the Lions are in big trouble going to Seattle. I don't know whether Seattle's a great team. And in fact, I don't think they are. At one point during the year, I did. I thought that they were arguably the second best team in the NFC. I don't think so anymore. But I do think they're good enough to win this game. I think they're good enough to win this home game. And I'll tell you this. Don't kid yourself. Have you noticed that Seattle gets all the calls? They get, in a close game, they get every big call. Every big call goes their way. I mean, don't forget what happened in some of those weeks there. I mean, with the field goal, with the timeout in the Buffalo game, and how about the non-pass interference call against Julio Jones? I mean, that guy was mugged, no call. So Seattle's gotten a little lucky, but now Detroit's got to go to Washington and play this game. I don't see it. I see Russell Wilson having a very good game. And I think the biggest problem is that Detroit's biggest weakness is arguably Seattle's biggest strength. Detroit can't cover a linebacker. Detroit can't cover a tight end. And Jimmy Graham is Seattle's tight end. So this is a Jimmy Graham go-off day. Now, I think it would be mildly possible for Detroit to pull off this upset if Seattle didn't have such a good tight end. If they were going with Luke Wilson, I might give Detroit a shot. But not with Jimmy Graham there. Jimmy Graham is so good, and if he does what I think he'll do, which is 100 yards and a touchdown, I think it makes Doug Baldwin better. I think it makes Kearse better. It makes Paul Richardson better. Don't forget that name, Paul Richardson. Paul Richardson was a very good player, a very high draft pick, who had a bad injury, a very bad injury in 2015. Hasn't done that much in 2016, but look what he's done the last couple of weeks since Tyler Lockett's been injured. 5 receptions in week 16, 7 receptions in week 17. That's 12 targets for a guy nobody has heard about. I've heard about you, Paul Richardson. I know who you are. I think the key for Seattle, 2 things. 1, getting the running game. Can Thomas Rawls find himself again? I mean, this was a guy who at one point was a fantastic running back who has just disappeared. Right? Alex Collins has shown a little bit, but CJ Prosise, I mean, this has been a shame because this guy was really good. But, you know, when he had the shoulder injury, he's been out for the longest time, since basically week 11. They need Prosise desperately. They will have Prosise again if they win this week. Prosise will try to make it back to next week's game. So, can they do it? I think so. If Prosise comes back, it will help. Biggest problem? No Earl Thomas. Cam Chancellor's lost a step. Richard Sherman's a bit overrated. Snead and Lane are okay, but Earl Thomas was the glue. And without him, they've been very, very, very average. I think they're just average enough, though, to beat the Detroit Lions. Because I think the Detroit Lions are a mirage. Okay? And that's the truth. So, going to be an interesting game. Going to watch it. Like the uniforms going on there. But I think the Seattle Seahawks win this one. Now let's turn to the other game. The New York Football Giants take on the Green Bay Packers. I am a Giant fan. I am absolutely a Giant fan. You know that. Am I a diehard? You know, it's so hard to say. I think at one time I liked my team more than fantasy, but now I'm a fantasy guy. So yes, I'd like the Giants to win, but if they lose, it's not like life or death. I'm not screaming at the screen, ready to rip somebody's head off. I mean, maybe a little bit, but not like you might think. Not like Adam Ronis does for this Cowboys, right? The Giants lose, I'll get over it in 5 minutes, maybe 3. If Cowboys lose, it takes Ronis like weeks. I'm not knocking that, by the way. It's just what fantasy has done to me. I'm so ingrained in fantasy that it's more important for me to win the Beat Dr. Trust me when I tell you this. It's more important for me to win the Beat Dr. Roto contest than the Giants winning the Super Bowl. I know that sounds terrible to say, but it's true. If I win the Beat Dr. Roto contest, I'm way happier. Way happier than if the Giants win the Super Bowl. I'm pretty happy if the Giants win the Super Bowl, don't get me wrong, but I'm much happier if I win the Beat Dr. Roto contest. Eli Manning does very good things on the road. He is a much better player on the road than almost any other quarterback in the NFL. If you are in a road game in a big spot, Eli's your guy. I know that sounds insane, but it's true. I like the Giants' chances more on the road than if they were playing at home. When they play at home, they put up some stinkers. Always have my whole life. Never trust the Giants at home. Giants on the road, I'm okay with it. I am. I think Eli plays well this week. I do. I think the question is, I think there are 2 major questions. 1, can they integrate any other receiver into this offense outside of Beckham? Because if I'm Green Bay, I am triple covering Beckham, and I'm forcing Eli to go to Victor Cruz or Sterling Shepard-Roto. I'm forcing that. And 2, can the Giants run the football? And if so, who is going to be the guy who does it? Will it be Paul Perkins? Will it be Rashad Jennings? The problem is this. Paul Perkins' pass protection, how about that for alliteration, is awful. But they need him in the game because he is a spark plug. But I think you're going to see way more Jennings than Giant fans want. I know way more than I want. Now look, here's when I want to see Jennings in the 4th quarter to hold on to that football. Outside of the 4th quarter, if I never saw him again, I'm fine with that. I want to see more Perkins. But on obvious passing downs, they got to be very careful bringing him out there because they can get Eli killed. And the Giants, there's no team more dependent on their starting quarterback than the New York Giants. Let me tell you that right now. Nobody. So, will Perkins play well? Will Jennings show something? Will Eli find anybody else besides Beckham? And if he can't, well, Beckham he's so good, forget double coverage. He'll figure it out. Defensively, will Janoris Jenkins play? And will Janoris Jenkins be healthy? The Giants need Janoris Jenkins. He may be the 3rd most valuable player on the field. Manning being 1, because they can't win without Manning. Beckham being 2, and Janoris Jenkins being 3, because they need to cover Jordy Nelson. They need to blanket Jordy Nelson. Right? And if they blanket Jordy Nelson, Devontae Adams will do something. That's something to look at. DRC, Rogers Cromartie has to play well. Snacks has to play well. Vernon has to play well. They got to rush that pass. They have to rush. They have to make Aaron Rodgers uncomfortable back there. So speaking of Aaron Rodgers, the guy has been, it's so funny because I took him in a league in the 4th round. And I would say up till week 8, it was a marginal pick. But from week 9 on, it was an amazing pick. Right? 297 and 3, 371 and 2, 351 and 3, 313 and 2, 209 and 2, 246 and 3. He gave me his biggest stinker of the year the week I needed him the most in a playoff week. That's why I lost the league. Because the next week he went 347 and 4 and I would have won the league. Seriously, gave me one bad week. One bad week is all it takes. But Aaron Rodgers, can the Giants pressure Aaron Rodgers? Can they force him out of the pocket? Now we know he's got a bad calf. We know he's got other injuries. Can we force him out of his comfort zone? If we can, if the Giants can, they might win this game. They might. Can Ty Montgomery run the football in the playoffs? Now, here's the biggest problem I have. I do. Jared Cook is unreliable. Randall Cobb, very questionable to play. He's been practicing. I think he plays. But Devontae Adams, bad case of the drops. Cook unreliable. Cobb questionable. So really, you have one great weapon, Jordy Nelson, and one amazing quarterback, Aaron Rodgers, against that Giant defense. Now, if Green Bay could go deeper with more weapons, maybe Geronimo Allison, maybe Devontae Adams catches the ball this week. But these guys are unreliable. So I truly believe that the Giants have a very big chance here. Now, if you believe in these things also, when the Giants lose to the Packers during the regular season and they get them in the playoffs and they win, done it a couple times, and they've won and it's led them to the promised land. So if the Giants beat Green Bay on the road, I think the Giants are a very dangerous team to go all the way. Very. I don't think Dallas is as good as people think they are. And I think the Giants can beat Atlanta. I know the Giants can beat Seattle. That's for sure. The Atlanta game is going to be tougher because I think Atlanta's a pretty good team. But hey, when you have a Janoris Jenkins back there, that's why the health of Janoris Jenkins is key. Can Janoris Jenkins cover 1, Jordy Nelson, 2, Dez Bryant, 3, Julio Jones? I mean, that's what he's going to have to do. They're going to need him to have 3 of the biggest weeks of his life against 3 of the top receivers in the NFL. If he does that, boom, Giants advance. I don't know what's going to happen. It's going to be a very close game. Very close game. But very interested in watching it. All right. It is still not too late to be part of playoff fantasy football. You can do it in 3 ways, at least you can on Scout. I want you to go to playscoutfantasy.com. The first game is the Beat Dr. Roto and Adam Rona's contest. It's free to join. Free. F-R-E-E, free. If you beat our scores, you get a free month of Scout. If you're the number 1 scorer overall, you win an entry into the online championship valued at $299. If you happen to win that online championship league, you know what you get? $1,500. So for free, you might even get $1,500. How about that? So encourage you to check that out. Also, how about Maui Madness? $25 per team. Your best 2 weeks count. Winner gets 6 nights in Maui and airfare for 4. You don't think your wife and kids will be liking that one? I think they will be. And the third one is the Playoff Fantasy Football Championship. 6 teams in a league, $199 entry. 1 out of the 6 of you gets $500. And then you get a shot at to play for $20K. Could you imagine putting up $199 for $20,000? That's what we call return on investment. ROI. So please check out what we're doing at Scout Fantasy. But that where you go for that is playscoutfantasy.com. Playscoutfantasy.com. All right? We will be on the radio a bunch of times. So let me explain what's happening tonight. As always, we're on from Friday from 10 to 12 p.m. Sirius 210, XM87. Tomorrow we will be on Saturday morning from 7 to 10. And then moving forward, beginning next week, we'll be on to from 7 to 9 a.m. every day. Monday through Friday. So that's right, no more sleep for Dr. Roto. Not like that's important. More important for me to be there for you talking fantasy sports to win you fantasy championships. That's where it's important for me to be. All right, guys, I hope you enjoy the games. They should be some really good ones, some bad ones, but should have a couple of very good games. I'm ready to watch them. I know you are too. We'll be back on Monday to recap and discuss. So enjoy your weekends. But right now it's time to put away the insurance cards, put away the copay. The office is closed, my friends. All right. Get into those playoff fantasy football modes. Get into those formats. Check out what we're doing. Join up. Let's be a part of the excitement. And we'll talk soon. Be well. Take care.
Thanks for listening to the Scout Fantasy Show. There's never been a better time to join the Scout Army. Visit scoutfantasy.com. Use the promo ROTO for 2 months free. And don't forget, fantasy players, please thumbs up the podcast on the iHeart app. See you next time. Go Scouts!